Nikki Haley drops out of the presidential race, which is looking more and more certain to be a Biden versus Trump rematch, and the vice president is visiting Madison today.
And that sets the stage for today's visit with Charles Franklin, the director of the Marquette Law School poll. I feel like this is like rinse and repeat, deja vu. What's
We've
happening?
been here before.
It is. Hopefully this will be the last rinse and repeat before the general election. But, Haley took 26% of the vote, averaged over the states yesterday, but Trump got 71%. That's a not trivial dissent group within the party, but it certainly shows Trump's dominance, and 71% was more than he'd been averaging in the earlier primaries. On the Democratic side, Biden got 89%, but 10% voted uncommitted in the states where that was an option. So there's a little bit of a creakiness on the Democratic side.
Do you think that Haley's going to find a way to magically forget everything negative that she said about Trump and then all of a sudden come out with an endorsement?
Well, it's certainly been the pattern in the Republican Party. Today, Mitch McConnell, the Senate minority leader, for the first time endorsed Trump this cycle after being very reticent and the two not speaking.
For years.
For years, not since January 6th.
Right.
But it is normal for people within a party to come together and unite behind the nominee. I wouldn't be surprised to see Haley eventually do that. I don't know how soon or how late. Today she said it was up to Trump to win over her supporters, not up to her to endorse or push them in that direction. So there's a little bitterness there to linger for a while. We'll see if it changes in the next few months.
Well, even though Haley did not have a Super Tuesday, with her number of the votes, can we deduce anything about Trump going forward to the general? Is that a problem for him then?
It's a bit of a problem. What we see in the exit polls and in our Marquette polls is something like 20 or 25% of Haley's supporters say they would vote for Biden in the general. She's getting 20 or 25% of the vote, so calculate that through, and it means about 5% of Republicans crossing over for Biden. Trump supporters are unanimous in sticking with Trump, of course. So nobody wants to give up 5% of their party. On the other hand, Biden is losing 7 or 8% of Democrats to Trump right now. That's why we've got 8 months of campaigning left to bring partisans home and maybe win over the handful of independent and moderate voters that are still out there.
So it's just going to be a matter now of boots on the ground and trying to convince people.
Massive organization in the 6 swing states, of course, including us. Lots of advertising. And since we're pretty certain what the matchup is, a lot of that campaign may run for the next 8 months instead of waiting to summer to ramp up. So stay tuned to see how many people are knocking on your door with canvassing.
Well, and even though Dems gave the Biden campaign a little bit of a bruising, could that campaign use that to its advantage? I think a lot of that comes from what's going on with the Palestinian ceasefire. Could they hear this message and use it to their advantage?
I think to the extent that we get a ceasefire, the Biden administration would take credit for some of that. Say, look, we were working for this all along. Also, I think if you look at the people that are unhappy with Biden within the Democratic Party, people who are pro-Palestinian, young people, people who don't think Biden's been progressive enough, very few of those people are Trump supporters. So the question for them is going to be, come home to Biden even if you don't like it, or go third party or skip the top of the ticket. With the Haley voters, it's a little more unclear about whether they can really be convinced to support Trump. How many of them might skip Trump, not vote? How many, that 5% I was mentioning, actually cross over for Biden? So there are fractures in both parties. Looks a little bit bigger on the Republican side right now. But we have it a 49-49 tie in the state in our last poll. So still looks like a nail-biter.
A lot can happen in 8 months.
And will.
Hey, we'll be seeing a lot of you.
I hope so.
All right.
Always fun.
Charles,
Thanks for having me.
thank you very much.